let's transition into 100 Thieves. Now, here's how I will do that. Jason R. was on stream today. I have to say, like, I asked a couple questions in chat because I wanted some more information there, and he wasn't really forthcoming with a lot of information. Like, he didn't necessarily, like, when Corey got announced, he wasn't necessarily ready for it, and, like, he didn't say, he just basically said, I'm not playing this weekend. Like, he didn't really give context or anything. What he did spend a lot of time on, though, was Hiko's reaction to his teammates being signed. And one thing he said that he laughed at, that a member of his chat brought up was, quote, they gave Hiko a boat, then went budget on the lineup.
Oh. I think that, I want to talk a little bit. I mean, I think...
Hold that thought, Tyler. Hold that thought. So, whether you agree with that or not, this is what happened with 100 Thieves. Hiko was the first signing. He's the team captain. Now the rest of the team has been completely announced, and all of them come from PUBG. It's going to be Valliate, Venerated, YaBoiDre, and Pride.
Sorry, Vegas.
Vegas is left on Team High Ground to fend for himself. Other than Pride, those three individuals played in our ESPN Esports Valorant Invitational. All four of them played on Team High Ground. All of them also former PUBG pros. So that quote is very, very tough, I would say, because these players actually are very good at this game. My question, however, and maybe Tyler, you start with this one as well. Will this team function well as a unit?
I don't know. I mean, it's really hard to tell, right? I mean, I know they've been scrimming. Like, Hiko has been scrimming with these guys. This isn't like a thing of like, hey, Hiko, here's your 4 new teammates. You're going to play in the tournament this weekend. They have been scrimming together from what I know. Like, this wasn't a surprise. I mean, Arda, I think you've known this as well, is that, like, this was the rumored roster, to us at least, for the last few days to a week. I think it's a good lineup. I think the PUBG guys, from what I know from talking to people in the scrim culture of North, I know scrims aren't ever, but in a world where there's never been a major term in Valorant, scrims are actually important because we have no other data to go off of. This is our first data point, is this T1 tournament. So all we really do have is scrims and Twitch rivals, and I'd rather take scrims over the results of Twitch rivals. And from what I know is Team High Grounds, this PUBG team did really well in scrims. Like, they're very impressive. People are impressed by them. Venerated especially is a player that people have been looking out for. I've talked to a lot of players and asked them, like, straight up, like, I'm not going to put this, I'm not going to name names, but, like, who are, like, the real true top guys? No BS. Who are they? And Venerated, Corey, these are the names that came up a lot. So Venerated is a player to watch out for. He was probably one of the better players that any org could pick up that was, unsigned. He was on Envy, so he must have transferred over to 100 Thieves. But there's talent on this team. Like, from a pure talent standpoint, this team isn't, inferior to many of the other teams. Like, TSM and T1 and those teams are going to have more chemistry off the bat. But this team definitely does have a lot of talent. YaBoiDre has some awesome pop-off games. Venerated is consistent as hell. And I know Hiko wanted to build this team. I know Hiko wanted this team. He wanted to build this team. He wanted to build it out. I know he's probably sad that he wasn't able to build the team he wanted. I'm sure in a best world, he would have loved to have Corey. Like, he, in an interview with me, he talked glowingly about how great Corey is and how awesome of a player is. I'm sure he would have loved to got Corey, but he's left with this team. They're very good. They're not Counter-Strike pros, and I'm sure a lot of people look at them and it's like, oh, why didn't you sign the CSGO guys? Like, why didn't you get Freakazoid? Why didn't you get these guys who are on the table? But I'm excited to see these guys. I think outside of possibly the Days core, which, we could maybe talk about, in a later date, like the Days core that's kind of building, the former iBuy Power player. He's building his own kind of stack that hopefully could get picked up by an org. I don't think there was that many, cores that, you really could have picked it up. Like, FaZe picked up a lot of, like, the trial players they're playing with are a lot of the best players in the beta and in the early days of Valorant. But I think Team High Grounds was one of the best teams in beta, and I really do believe these guys have a potential to be a really good team. Is it the team Hiko wanted? Probably not. But can this team become a champion? I think so.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I can see, like, I hate actually using this phrase now because of the way it's been co-opted by the internet, but I can see both sides of this. I think Venerated is like actually insane. And I can see why 100T decided to go with this lineup. I can also see why you bring on someone like Hiko, like yes to somewhat be like a star player, but also I think you'd want to fill in talent. Like I think he wanted to be a part of what this lineup was, right? And that was kind of, I think, maybe a little bit unspoken from his side. He thought that was an agreement between him and the team. Is like, I'm coming along. I really want to help build this lineup myself by trialing people and stuff like that. And it would be different if it was FaZe, if it was like FaZe where FaZe is already like, we haven't announced these players. This is just the lineup that we're going with. We're still testing stuff. From my understanding, that's not what 100T are doing. They actually just said, like, this is the lineup, not just for this tournament, but for the foreseeable future right now. So I can see why Hiko would be a little bit sad that he didn't get to have a say in what lineup he wanted to play with, especially if, again, he had that expectation upon coming onto the team. But I don't think it's as bad as maybe, like, people will think. And I also think it's unfortunately setting, I know we were talking a little bit about this off camera going into the show, but it'll be a little bit sad if they don't end up doing well, because I feel like it'll be these guys that'll end up getting attacked.
100%.
Right?
They are 100% getting dumped.
That's not fair either, right? So it already it's unfortunate that this happens. It kind of puts them in a really awkward position. So hopefully they can perform well this weekend.
I just want to say real quickly, there's a history of Hiko being very picky about his teams. One of the things about Liquid when he was on Liquid, because if you remember before he joined Team Liquid in Counter-Strike, he was trying to put together his own thing with Makalele and Skadoodle. Skadoodle ended up taking the Cloud9 offer and then going on to win a world championship somewhere along the way in that thing. But the huge deal, a huge deal for Hiko was, and part of the tension on Liquid was the fact that he didn't get to make as many changes as he wanted. He vouched and they brought in Simple, right? And Simple at the time was very young and very immature, not nearly the same person he is now, but still skill-wise one of the best players in the world. But Nitro and Elige were like, and it always happened, sort of the staple of Team Liquid's Counter-Strike team for the longest time as anyone can remember, and their performance mandates that. But nonetheless, like, part of the reason that things were weird with Liquid is because Hiko was not GM and player at the same time, in the same way that you can compare him in that way to like LeBron James, right? And some of the teams he's had in the NBA before. So I think this team will do well. I think the PUBG players that were signed actually are very good, but I am very hesitant and curious how this will play out given that history of Hiko wanting to be the sort of the pseudo GM in that way.